Welcome to another deep dive. Today we're exploring the fascinating world of adult attachment styles.
We'll be using Attached by Amir Levine and Rachel S.F. Heller.
It's a deep dive into how these styles, which are rooted in childhood,
Can really shape our romantic relationships as adults.
you're going to unpack the three main attachment styles,
Secure, anxious, and avoidant.
and we'll discover how understanding them can help everyone navigate the complexities of love.
Absolutely. We'll uncover concepts like the dependency paradox.
Ooh, that's an interesting one.
Yeah. And how our brains are wired for connection.
I mean, we talk about that a lot on the show.
We do, but this is a new perspective, I think.
Okay.
And then, of course, practical tips for building healthier and more fulfilling relationships.
I'm really curious about this whole dependency paradox thing.
Yeah.
It seems counterintuitive that needing someone could actually lead to more independence.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It really challenges a lot of our assumptions about relationships.
So let's start at the beginning. Why is attachment so fundamental to our existence?
Right.
Is it just about babies needing their parents?
Well, it starts there,
Okay.
but it goes much deeper, I think.
Okay.
Attachment is actually a survival mechanism that's hardwired into our brains.
Yep.
Think about it. For our ancestors, staying close to caregivers meant safety and protection.
It's like that saying, it takes a village.
Exactly.
We're social creatures who rely on each other for survival.
Exactly.
Mm.
And this need for connection doesn't just disappear when we become adults.
Right.
It continues to influence our behavior in romantic relationships. John Bowlby, a pioneer in attachment theory, he called this our search for a secure base.
Okay, so the secure base is basically what we look for in a partner, someone who makes us feel safe and loved. But how does this dependency paradox fit into all of this?
So the authors of Attached use this great example from a reality TV show to illustrate this. There was this couple, Karen and Tim, who were competing in a race around the world. Karen wanted to hold Tim's hand during a stressful bungee jumping challenge, but Tim resisted, thinking it would make him look weak.
Ah, playing it cool. I've seen that before.
Right. But here's the thing. Tim himself almost quit the race earlier.
Oh, wow.
And it was Karen's unwavering support that helped him push through.
So the one who was so afraid of appearing needy actually ended up needing the most support.
Exactly.
That's a perfect example of how this dependency paradox can play out in real life.
Exactly. And Attached argues that by allowing ourselves to depend on a secure and loving partner,
Yeah.
we gain the confidence and strength to become more independent.
It's like that saying, you can't pour from an empty cup.
Yes.
You need to feel supported and loved in order to thrive.
Absolutely. Now let's dive into the three main attachment styles that the book outlines.
Okay, bring on the attachment styles. I'm ready to learn all about them.
All right, let's start with this secure attachment style. Secure individuals are generally comfortable with intimacy. They're able to express their feelings openly and navigate relationships with relative ease.
Sounds like the ideal.
It is, in many ways. They tend to have a positive view of themselves and others, and they don't shy away from vulnerability.
And then we have the anxious attachment style. What are their defining characteristics?
Anxious individuals crave intimacy and often become preoccupied with the relationship. They're very sensitive to changes in their partner's behavior and may worry about their partner's love and availability.
I can see how that could lead to some roller coaster emotions.
It can, yeah. Attached uses a great example to illustrate this. They share the story of Emily, who constantly seeks reassurance from her partner, David. Emily's anxieties are triggered by even small changes in David's behavior, which can lead to conflict and misunderstandings.
Yeah, I feel like I know a few Emilys in my life.
Very relatable style,
Yeah.
for sure. And then we have the avoidant attachment style.
All right, avoidance. What makes them tick?
So avoidant individuals highly value their independence and often keep their distance emotionally. They may feel uncomfortable with too much closeness and tend to withdraw when things get intense.
So it's almost like they're running away from intimacy.
In a way, yes. The book even uses the story of Chris McCandless, the young man from Into the Wild who went into the Alaskan wilderness, to highlight this extreme form of avoidance.
I remember that movie.
Yeah.
He was definitely running from something, but it sounds like his avoidance ultimately led to tragedy.
Right.
It makes you wonder if that's a common pattern for avoidance.
That's a great question, and one we'll explore further as we dig deeper into the nuances of each attachment style.
Okay, so we've got our three main players: secure, anxious, and avoidant. But how do we figure out someone's attachment style in real life? Are there any telltale signs?
Yeah, so the book provides some golden rules for deciphering someone's attachment style. The first rule is to observe whether the person genuinely seeks intimacy and closeness.
So it's not just about saying the right words. It's about their actions and how they actually behave in the relationship.
Exactly. And the second rule is to pay attention to how preoccupied they are with the relationship and how sensitive they are to rejection.
I'm guessing anxious types would be more preoccupied and sensitive, while avoidance would be less so?
You're catching on quickly. Attached even provides a cracking others attachment style cheat sheet to help you decode those subtle cues.
Okay, I'm ready for some real-world examples. Let's see how these attachment styles play out in dating scenarios.
Okay, the book gives us a few great examples. Let's start with James. He's recently divorced and claims that he needs a break from commitment. He emphasizes that any future partner must be financially independent because he already has one woman milking him dry.
Whoa! Blaming his ex and emphasizing self-sufficiency above all else. That definitely sounds like avoidant behavior.
It does, doesn't it? Now contrast James with Bella. She describes her long-term boyfriend, Mark, as not initially meeting her ideal image of a partner, but she emphasizes their strong connection and happiness together. She even feels completely comfortable expressing her love for him.
That sounds more like a secure approach.
Yes.
Focusing on the emotional bond rather than superficial qualities.
Exactly. And then there's Janet. She falls head over heels after just 2 dates and talks about feeling incredibly lucky to have found someone compatible because she believes the odds are stacked against her.
Oh, yeah. That sense of urgency and fear of not finding the one
Yeah.
definitely screams anxious attachment.
Spot on. And attached helps us understand these patterns not as personal flaws,
Right.
but as deeply ingrained responses that are shaped by our past experiences.
This is all so insightful. I'm starting to see how understanding attachment styles could be incredibly helpful in navigating the dating world.
Absolutely. It can help you understand your own patterns,
Yeah.
spot potential red flags, and even communicate your needs more effectively.
Okay, so we've covered the basics of the 3 attachment styles and how to spot them in others. Now, I'm curious about this anxious avoidant dynamic you mentioned earlier. Why is it considered a trap?
That's a great question. The anxious avoidant pairing can be particularly challenging because it involves a fundamental clash of needs.
Right.
The anxious person longs for closeness and reassurance, while the avoidant seeks distance and independence.
It's almost like they're speaking different love languages.
Exactly. And this clash often creates a frustrating cycle where the more the anxious person seeks closeness,
Uh-huh.
the more the avoidant withdraws. It's a recipe for heartache.
Okay, this is getting juicy. Tell me more about this anxious avoidant dynamic. What are some of the common pitfalls?
Well, let's start by exploring some common scenarios that play out in anxious avoidant relationships. The anxious partner might, for example, call or text frequently throughout the day,
Just checking in,
just wanting to connect and feel reassured.
showing that they care.
But I can see how an avoidant partner might see that as clingy or intrusive.
Oh, for sure.
Exactly. And that's where the conflict begins. The avoidant partner might respond with silence or short, dismissive replies, which only fuels the anxious person's anxieties.
It sounds like a recipe for disaster. Are there any strategies for breaking free from this cycle of frustration?
There are, but it takes a lot of self-awareness and willingness to change those deeply ingrained patterns.
This is all starting to make so much sense. I can already see how understanding attachment styles can completely change the way we approach relationships.
It's a game changer for sure, and we've only just scratched the surface. There's so much more to unpack, but let's save that for the next part of our deep dive.
All right, we're back, and I'm ready to hear more about how to break free from that anxious avoidant trap.
Right.
You know, it sounds like it takes a lot of work
It does.
to bridge that gap
Yeah.
between needing closeness and wanting space.
It definitely does. But Attached offers some encouraging insights and strategies. It all starts with understanding those deeply ingrained patterns. So, anxious individuals, they need to learn to manage their anxieties independently,
Okay.
rather than relying solely on their partner for reassurance.
That sounds tough.
Yeah,
Especially when your instinct is to seek comfort from the person you love.
it is. But the book offers some helpful tips.
Okay.
Developing calming routines, practicing mindfulness, and finding activities that bring joy outside the relationship can all contribute to building that inner secure base.
So it's about finding ways to soothe yourself.
Yes,
Rather than always looking to your partner to fill that void.
exactly. And for avoidance, the challenge lies in gradually increasing their tolerance for intimacy and learning to express their emotions more openly.
Which, let's face it, is a big ask for someone who's used to keeping their distance and bottling things up.
It is. That's why the book emphasizes small steps.
Yeah.
Just acknowledging your partner's bids for connection, a quick text back, a brief hug, can go a long way. It's about showing up. Yeah.
Even in small ways.
Yeah.
To let your partner know you care.
So it's about meeting in the middle.
Exactly.
The anxious person learning to self-soothe, and the avoidant person making an effort to be more present and emotionally available.
Exactly. And it's not about changing who you are at your core. It's about recognizing those patterns and finding healthier ways to relate to each other.
You know, it makes you wonder if some of those small gestures of connection could have prevented the tragedy of Chris McCandless going into the wilderness.
It's a thought-provoking question, isn't it?
Yeah.
It highlights the importance of understanding these dynamics and seeking help when those patterns become destructive.
Speaking of destructive patterns, let's shift gears a bit and talk about when to walk away,
Right.
when those clashes become too much to bear. You know, Tex Grial shares a story about a woman named Marcia who got stuck in a painful dynamic with an avoidant partner. What can we learn from her experience?
So Marcia's story is a cautionary tale. Her ex-husband Craig was charming and charismatic at first.
But over time, his emotional unavailability became increasingly apparent.
No.
He would shut down during conflicts, belittle her accomplishments, and prioritize his own image over her well-being.
Sounds like a classic narcissist. But I'm guessing those red flags weren't always so obvious.
You're right. Marcia admits to ignoring some early warning signs.
Okay.
For example, Craig refused to acknowledge their relationship publicly
Oh, wow.
and would make disparaging remarks about her appearance.
It was a slow chipping away at her self-esteem.
Yeah, it was.
Why do we do that? Why do we sometimes cling to relationships that are clearly not good for us?
It's the power of the attachment system at play. We're wired to seek connection,
Yeah.
even if that connection is causing us pain.
Yeah.
It's not always about logic or making rational decisions. It's about that deep-seated need for closeness and security,
Right.
even if it's with the wrong person.
It's like we're trying to fit a square peg into a round hole, hoping that somehow it will magically work.
Exactly. And for Marcia, it took years of emotional turmoil and repeated attempts to leave before she finally broke free from this toxic dynamic.
Her story is a powerful reminder that recognizing those red flags early on
Yes.
and prioritizing our own emotional well-being
Yes.
are essential for healthy relationships.
Absolutely. And Attached offers a helpful list of warning signs that it might be time to end a relationship.
Okay, I'm all ears. What are some of those deal breakers?
One major red flag is a partner who consistently prioritizes their own image over your feelings, much like Craig did with Marcia.
Right.
Another warning sign is feeling like the enemy during conflicts, constantly being put on the defensive or having your sanity questioned.
Right.
And of course, if your partner's behavior consistently undermines your emotional and physical well-being,
Right.
that's a clear indication that something is seriously wrong.
This is also valuable. I'm starting to see my own past relationships in a whole new light. But how do we actually do the breaking up? How do we navigate that separation when our attachment system is screaming at us to stay connected?
It's tough, for sure. But Attached provides a 9-step guide for navigating breakups in a way that honors your needs and promotes healing. We can delve into those steps later if you'd like.
Yes, please. Let's add that to our list of topics to cover.
Okay.
But before we get into the nitty-gritty of breaking up, I
Right.
want to circle back to communication.
Yeah,
Attached dedicates an entire chapter to effective communication.
it does.
Why is it so crucial, especially when attachment styles clash?
So communication is the foundation of any relationship,
Right.
but it becomes even more critical when partners have different ways of approaching intimacy and connection.
Yeah.
It's like speaking different love languages.
Yeah.
If you're not on the same page emotionally,
Right.
misunderstandings and conflicts are bound to arise.
And I imagine those insecure attachment patterns can really complicate things.
Absolutely. Attached offers some great insights into why insecure individuals, both anxious and avoidant, often struggle with effective communication.
For example, anxious individuals, driven by their fear of rejection, often beat around the bush or drop hints instead of clearly stating their needs.
Hoping their partner will magically read their mind and provide the reassurance they crave.
Exactly. But this often backfires,
Yeah,
leaving the anxious person feeling unheard and misunderstood.
right.
Avoidants, on the other hand, tend to shut down emotionally during difficult conversations.
Okay.
They might change the subject, offer logical explanations without acknowledging feelings,
Okay.
or simply withdraw completely.
It's like hitting an emotional brick wall.
It can be incredibly frustrating for both partners, but by understanding these patterns, we can start to break free from those ineffective communication habits.
Okay, so we know what not to do. What does healthy, effective communication actually look like?
So, Attached outlines 5 principles for effective communication,
Okay.
and they all revolve around creating a safe space for open and honest dialogue.
Okay, I'm ready for a communication crash course. Hit me with those principles. The first principle is to show genuine concern for your partner's well-being.
Okay.
It's about listening actively,
Mm.
validating their feelings,
Yeah.
and demonstrating that you're on their team even when you disagree. The second principle is all about staying focused on the problem at hand.
No bringing up past grievances or going off on tangents.
Right.
I know I'm definitely guilty of that sometimes.
We all are. But by sticking to the specific issue, you avoid unnecessary escalation and create a clearer path towards resolution.
Okay. Principle number 3.
Refrain from generalizing the conflict.
Okay.
This means avoiding those sweeping statements like, you always or you never.
Right.
Keep things in perspective and remember that a single disagreement doesn't define the entire relationship.
So no catastrophizing or assuming the worst.
Exactly.
Deep breaths, people.
Principle number 4 is all about being willing to engage.
No shutting down or checking out mentally, right?
Right. Active participation, even when it's uncomfortable,
Yeah.
is key for effective conflict resolution.
So lean in, listen attentively, and express your thoughts and feelings clearly.
You nailed it.
Okay.
And finally, principle number 5, effectively communicate your own feelings and needs.
No more hinting or hoping they'll just get it. Direct communication is essential.
Exactly. Be honest, be clear, and be vulnerable.
Yeah.
By expressing your true self, you create a space for genuine connection and understanding.
This is all starting to click.
Yeah.
I'm seeing how these secure principles can really shift the dynamic from conflict to collaboration.
Yeah.
It's not about one person winning and the other losing.
Yeah.
It's about working together to create a more harmonious relationship.
You got it. And Attached takes it a step further by outlining 5 secure principles for handling conflict constructively.
Okay, let's dive into those principles. How can
Uh-huh.
we approach conflict in a way that actually brings us closer together
Yeah.
rather than tearing us apart? This is what I really want to know.
That's a great question, and I'm happy to share those principles with you. But first, let's take a quick pause to gather our thoughts. We'll be right back to unpack those conflict resolution strategies.
Okay, we're back, and I am ready for those conflict resolution strategies.
Okay.
I'm all about turning arguments into opportunities for growth and connection.
That's the secure mindset in action.
Yeah.
Remember, conflict is inevitable in any relationship. It's how we handle those disagreements that determines whether they'll strengthen or weaken our bond.
So let's get practical. What are those 5 secure principles for navigating conflict like a champ?
All right, the first principle echoes a theme we've been discussing throughout this deep dive.
Okay.
Show basic concern for your partner's well-being.
So it's not about winning the argument. It's about understanding and respecting your partner's perspective.
Precisely. Even when emotions are running high,
Yeah.
remember that you're on the same team. The second principle is all about staying focused on the problem at hand.
No bringing up past grievances or going off on tangents. I know I'm guilty of that sometimes.
We all are. But by sticking to the specific issue, you avoid unnecessary escalation and create a clearer path towards resolution.
Okay, principle number 3.
Refrain from generalizing the conflict.
Okay.
This means avoiding those sweeping statements like you always or you never.
Right.
Keep things in perspective.
Yeah.
And remember that a single disagreement doesn't define the entire relationship.
So no catastrophizing or assuming the worst.
Exactly.
Deep breaths, people.
Principle number 4 is all about being willing to engage.
No shutting down or checking out mentally.
Right. Active participation, even when it's uncomfortable,
Yeah.
is key for effective conflict resolution.
So lean in,
Yes,
listen attentively, and express your thoughts and feelings clearly.
you nailed it. And finally, principle number 5. Effectively communicate your own feelings and needs.
No more hinting or hoping they'll just get it. Direct communication is essential.
Exactly. Be honest, be clear, and be vulnerable. By expressing your true self, you create a space for genuine connection and understanding.
This is all starting to click.
Good.
I'm seeing how these secure principles can really shift the dynamic from conflict to collaboration.
Yeah.
It's not about one person winning and the other losing.
Yeah.
It's about working together to create a more harmonious relationship.
You got it. And, the book introduces this really interesting concept called security priming.
Ooh, security priming. What is that?
So this technique involves recalling positive relationship experiences
Oh, okay.
to foster a more secure mindset.
So it's like rewiring our brains to focus on the good stuff.
Exactly. By intentionally bringing to mind those moments of connection,
Yes.
security, and love, we can actually shift our emotional state and
Wow,
approach challenges with a more secure perspective.
that's incredible. It's like having a mental toolkit for boosting those feelings of safety and security.
It is.
I could definitely use that sometime.
Yeah, it's a powerful tool.
Yeah.
And Attached also recommends this really helpful exercise called the relationship inventory.
Oh, you tell me more about this inventory. What's it all about?
So it's a guided reflection that helps you examine your past and present relationships through the lens of attachment theory.
So it's about uncovering those patterns, those triggers, those deeply ingrained ways of relating that might be holding us back.
Exactly. By identifying those recurrent themes,
Yeah.
those moments of activation and deactivation in our attachment systems, we gain invaluable self-awareness.
Which is the first step toward making lasting change, right?
Absolutely. The relationship inventory encourages you to pinpoint specific situations that trigger those insecure patterns,
Okay.
and then brainstorm alternative, more secure ways of responding.
So we can choose differently.
Yes, it's like creating a roadmap for healthier, more fulfilling relationships.
I love that analogy, a roadmap for love.
Yeah.
And the book even provides those helpful lists.
It does.
It's common, anxious, and avoidant thoughts,
Yes.
emotions, and reactions, right?
It does. It's like having a decoder ring for understanding our own behavior and that of our partners.
This is all so eye-opening. I'm definitely going to be doing that relationship inventory. Well, this deep dive has been absolutely fascinating.
Good.
I feel like I have a whole new understanding of myself and my relationships.
That's what we like to hear.
Before we wrap up, I want to reiterate some of the key takeaways from Attached.
Okay.
First and foremost, understanding your attachment style is like unlocking a secret code to your relationship patterns.
It is.
It's about recognizing those deeply ingrained ways of relating and making conscious choices that lead to greater security and connection.
Absolutely.
And remember that dependency paradox we discussed.
Yes.
Allowing yourself to depend on a secure and loving partner can actually make you more independent.
It's true.
It's counterintuitive, but
Yeah.
so powerful. And finally, effective communication is essential for any healthy relationship.
Couldn't agree more.
It's about expressing your needs clearly, listening actively, and responding with empathy.
Those are the building blocks of lasting love and connection.
I love it. For our listeners who want to dive deeper into the world of attachment, we highly recommend checking out Attached by Amir Levine and Rachel S.F. Heller. It's a brilliant guide for understanding yourself and your relationships.
A must-read for anyone who wants to unlock the secrets to lasting love.
As we wrap up this episode, we want to leave you with a thought-provoking question. Think about your own relationship patterns. Which attachment style resonates most with you? What can you do to foster greater security and satisfaction in your relationships?
Remember, knowledge is power, especially when it comes to matters of the heart.
Until next time, happy diving.